Get ready for a new episode of Inspired, the refreshing podcast made to have conversations centered around being designed by God to discover and dwell. Whether you're a mom, young professional, a caretaker, or whatever season in life you're in, you're sure to pick up helpful insight, thoughts to think on throughout the week, and leave this episode feeling inspired to know God in deeper ways. I'm Jessica, and I'm on the Inspired team here at X Church. And today, we invite Morgan Claprood on to share about how her story and how God's design in her life made all the difference. You're also not going to want to miss the part where Janice talks about shoving things in her oven before guests arrive. So, here we go. Welcome. You are joining our second ever at the Inspired podcast.
Yeah.
And today I have sitting at the table with me, as always, Janice.
Hey, everyone.
And we have Morgan.
Hello.
This is Morgan Claprood. She is our X-Kids director here at the church.
Yep.
We are at X Church out of Columbus, Ohio.
That's
and so
right.
she runs the kids side over there.
Do the best job.
It
Honestly,
is.
the most fun.
And she's amazing, too.
Oh, thank you.
And she's the one that is the orderer of all the squishies
Yes.
and the puzzle erasers.
Yes. Yes. It's a very high ordered job.
Yes.
And
I
take it seriously.
Yeah. Yesterday, Phoenix, my 5-year-old, had all of his puzzle erasers
Okay.
out and dissecting all of them, putting
Yep.
them all together. But that's the new toy, right?
Yes. Yeah. We've moved on from squishies.
That melt in your car.
Right. And yeah, and get really gross and dirty.
Yeah.
Actually, the fun fact, if you rinse them with cold water, they're almost like new. So
Really?
yeah. You're welcome, and I'm sorry.
Well, actually, those are my cat's favorite toys. The
Oh my gosh,
squishies.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, does it carry it around in their mouth?
Yeah, and then she like lays on it and bats it around. It's really fun to watch. But anyways, kids
Yeah.
director, and she is also on our Inspired team, and she's a wife and a mother of 4.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your little
Yeah.
family.
So, yeah, my husband, Derek, we've been married for 12 years, I think, 11 and a half. I don't know. I have a stepdaughter.
I don't know.
I know. Somewhere
That's usually
around
the
there.
guy usually says
Yeah,
that.
I was
I
gonna
know.
say.
I feel like I should really know, but it's been a long time, and it's great. I love being married to him. He's
Yeah.
a good guy. I have a stepdaughter who's 17, so she's entering her last year of high school. So that's an exciting journey
Ooh,
she's about to be on.
senior.
Yeah. And then my son is almost 11, going into 5th grade. And then I have a 7-year-old daughter who's going into 2nd grade, and a 4-year-old daughter who is going to be starting her first year of preschool this year.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm
It's
going
a
to be a
big
mess,
milestone.
but it's fine. It is a big milestone. Thank
Aw.
you for recognizing that.
It is. I mean, it's your baby.
More so for me probably than her, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm excited for them. They bring me great joy. I feel like they're my first ministry, and I love getting to love them and teach them about Jesus. And I get to do it with my husband, who's equally amazing. And I don't know, I have a blessed life. What can I say?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, your family is a blessing to many.
Oh, thank you.
But we just wanted to bring Morgan on today. Last week, if you were listening in, we kind of dissected what inspired meant. And you even told us the definition, and it was a beautiful definition of divine, something that, an inspiration that comes from a divine source.
Yeah.
Right.
When we talked
Absolutely.
about how God being the designer, and in God we can discover, and then also in God He desires that we dwell with Him. And so we wanted to have Morgan on. She has an amazing story. Like we said last week, we are really just want this table to be a place where we share stories, because stories help us connect with one another, and they also point us to the creator and the designer
That's
of all of
right.
our stories, and
Yeah.
that's God. And so Janice had actually recommended Morgan come on,
Yep.
and
Aw,
they
thanks,
work
Jan.
together.
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
So
we
you
do.
guys actually like desks beside, pretty close to each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, her back's to me, but she's often turned around or standing by my desk, and vice versa.
I hand her Kleenexes
Yeah,
and things like
mhm.
that.
Yeah, I'm a
because-
crier.
Yes.
Aw.
Morgan is a crier.
Yeah.
We both are, but she's more of a crier than I am.
Yeah, I'm kind of the
Aw.
office crier. It's
Yeah.
The
fine.
office crier. You should get a trophy for that.
I probably should. Some sort of medal.
Yeah, but I want you to know that every time she cries, her mascara does not budge.
Oh,
Waterproof?
yeah. That's the only way to go.
It's amazing.
How do you get it off though?
coconut oil.
Oh yeah, I have done coconut oil on my.
It's absolutely amazing. I admire that tremendously.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a gift, you know.
Me and my eyelashes. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know a little bit about your story
Uh-huh.
because you've shared things, and I told you I was going to ask you this because
You
I want to hear all of the stuff on
Yes.
how you discovered your design and how God made you.
Uh-huh.
As I know that at one point in your career history that you were a bartender at a restaurant.
I was Joe's Crab Shack.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. And so I guess I will love to hear is how did you get from being a bartender at Joe's Crab Shack to being on staff and being an ex-kids director
Yes.
here?
Well, first of all, I will say that bartending and being a kids director are very similar. You are catering to people's needs. You know, you're never knowing what's walking in, and you're constantly multitasking. And I feel like you're always thinking of the needs of others, you know, as a bartender. And while I was bartending, most of the time I was also waiting on tables. And you never know who's walking in with what. You know, the same as with ministry. You know, not only do I provide a space for kids to learn about Jesus, but part of my job is that I get to minister to our volunteers. And so I feel like, in a way, bartending kind of prepared me. I feel like I'm just wired to care for people and to just, you know, listen to their stories and, you know, provide advice if, you know, it arises. But yeah, bartending was crazy, and being a kids director at X Church is also crazy, and I love it. So, but yeah. I think, so shortly after bartending, I also did hair for 11 years in a
And that's
salon.
definitely that way.
And that's also, yes, very similar as to just caring
Well,
for
I'm sure
people.
you hear people's stories.
Oh, yeah, you hear,
like,
yes.
just the good and the bad. and
Yeah.
the
It's like a
ugly.
therapist.
It really is.
Oh.
So I feel
Yeah.
like, God definitely wired me to care for people and to listen. I feel like most of my friends would consider me a good listener. So I just ask him to use me however he needs to use me. He designed me, so he knows the best way to do that. So yeah, I feel like he's given me a career path of lots of opportunities to hopefully inspire people or just to speak into people's lives, and hopefully they walk away feeling better. I don't know.
So you said about how God has wired you.
Yes.
You've mentioned that a few times.
Uh-huh.
So when did that become apparent to you, that you were wired a certain way? Who helped you identify some of those things and connect the dots to be able to attribute it back to that being how God had put that design in you?
So a few people for sure. My mom, I feel like
all the moms.
I know all the moms out there.
Yay,
She's
moms.
the best. You guys, I have the best mom. But I feel like because she was such a great mom, I wanted to be a mom. So I've always been drawn to kids. Like I always wanted to be a mom. You know, I was always in my room with all my baby dolls. I played with baby dolls probably way too long, like longer than probably most normal middle schoolers.
Middle school.
And then I know, yeah, I'm not joking. But
American Doll.
yes,
Tell me
American Doll.
you've been in there.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I guess
Yes.
with your girls, you
Oh,
probably
yeah.
have.
Yeah, it's expensive though. So
It is very.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's scary expensive, but they love them. So anyway, so I feel like trying to think. So my mom is definitely a person. You know, she always recognized that I wanted to be. You know, I was good with kids. I think, and then getting into college, I took a class. I remember on early childhood development, and while I didn't really have like a close relationship with that professor, I just really like kind of resonated with her. And I remember her, you know, just all this interesting stuff about, you know, about kids and their growth and, you know, things that happen developmentally through, you know, early childhood. And I just found it very fascinating. And then
That's, you say you took that in college?
yeah.
That is so cool how God
know.
had set that
Right.
up. That to
And
be,
y'all, I didn't even graduate from college. Like I literally, okay, first of all, I went to 4 schools in 2 years. So I was
wow.
trying to figure things out.
oh, it's a weird time.
It
College is a
is.
weird time.
It
Yes,
is.
it is.
And some people have a clear, you know, path, and I felt like I did. But then, you know, things happened and I went another way. And, you know, I ended up going to cosmetology school and doing hair for 11 years. So, but that was, equally great. I think a lot of people, so what happened is we started coming to this church, and I started volunteering in the nursery because I'm a baby person. And I just got to know some people. There were some, we called them volunteer team leads at the time. And one, her name is Liz. She was amazing to me. She just really called me out, you could do more. You can, why don't you step out? She would offer prayer to me. I knew I could go to her with anything. And I was just like, wow, like, I feel so loved. And like, how do I repay, or pass it forward. And then Becca Dawson, who I've worked with for a little while, she's a mentor of mine. She gave me this mug that I'm drinking out of right now. It says, "Enjoy every moment."
That's cute.
She was definitely one person that spoke into me. And I remember the moment I actually accepted the full-time kids director job. And I remember the words so clearly out of her mouth, "You are ready." And that was a pivotal moment for me. I think I bawled my eyes out. I'm trying not to cry about it right now. I know.
Oh my gosh.
What are you thinking having me on with no Kleenexes? No, and just the fact that she had, because she had been the kids director here a couple times. She's filled in the gaps for us numerous times in numerous positions, and she's always willing to help. So just with her knowledge of the ministry, her knowledge of teachers, it just meant the world to me that she would think that I could do this. So yeah, that's just to name a few, and just friends along the way who've always encouraged me. Yeah, so
That's really incredible that you've had people, though, along the way that just have kind of
so blessed.
pointed some things out to you.
Yes.
I mean, that is, and, I know that in the position that you're in now, that you work so well with so many of our servant leaders, which is what we call our volunteers,
Yes.
and you have lots of association with them and all that. Knowing what other people have done for you, what do you do to do that for others right now?
So what I like to do is I just like to meet with people and hear their stories, and just offer encouragement wherever I can.
You're definitely an encourager.
Yeah, you are.
You have a gift.
Well, thank you. I love to speak truth over people because God's truth is good news. Like, everything he has to say about you is good. So I love being able to speak truth over people.
And we so need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because just our world will speak
Oh, for
truth
sure.
to us,
Right.
but they might not be the right truth. And for
Right.
someone to step out and to actually speak God's truth over your life
Right.
makes such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I feel like I'm a pretty empathetic person, so I can usually tell when something's up with someone. It doesn't take usually a whole lot. If it's somebody I know really well, I can usually tell right away. Even if it's somebody I don't know super well, I'm like, something's off. We need to get coffee. What's going on? How can
You
I
are
help?
good at that.
Yeah. Sometimes I call people too. Just, to check in. I like to take care of my people. So, God's people, really. That's what we're called to do. So, I love what I get to do. I love that that's my job. Like, sometimes I pinch myself, like, this is my job.
Yeah.
I think, not to bring the Enneagram into this, but I love the
bring it in.
Enneagram.
Okay,
We're
it's
bringing
all
it
right.
in. It's been brought.
Here it is.
I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, and I'm a very strong 2. And for those of you who don't know, 2 is the helper, and I just love to help, almost to a fault. And I've realized that within the last couple years that, like, I get offended if you don't need my help. And I'm working through that, so you guys can rest assured it's okay. I'm working on myself. I know that that can be unhealthy too. So I feel like within the Enneagram, that's also part of my pre-wiring, how God
Yeah.
designed
Yeah.
me.
Morgan and I are the 2s that are on
Yes.
staff, and
Yes.
it's interesting when we're in a meeting. Sometimes it's just like we're the ones who are like, "Well, how are we going to take care of these people?" and all this kind of thing. Everybody else has got all their agendas and problems, and this is the
Right.
process we're going to do
Yeah.
and all that. But you definitely are the one who somebody, we hear about someone having surgery or a baby, the first person who jumps in and says, okay, we need to set up a meal plan.
I know. I mean,
It's Morgan.
meal plan
Yes.
comes from Morgan all the time.
Yeah.
Meal plan extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is
Well,
the one.
it's helpful to have everybody in the body working together
yeah,
that has
sure.
a certain bent on
And
personality.
I'll tell you why I do that, because so I've birthed 3 children, and my first 2, we didn't really have a church family when they were born. So when I had my third, we were pretty involved, and someone set a meal plan up for me, and I was like, this is the best thing ever.
So
like
helpful.
I just had my third baby, and I'm having dinner brought to me every night. Like I don't even have to worry about that, because at the time I had an infant. I think my daughter was 2 or 3, and then I had a 6-year-old son, and, my husband, his job's pretty demanding, so he didn't get much of a paternity leave. So it was just such a huge blessing that I'm like, everyone needs a meal plan. Like,
I think it's a little bit old school too.
it kind of is, but it's a nice touch.
Definitely. I actually ran into someone the other day. I was at the grocery store getting stuff to make Rebecca and Pastor Zach a meal after they had just recently had their little girl Oakley. And I ran into a person that I knew at the grocery store, and they had said, "Oh, you don't live on this side of town. What are you doing over here?" And I said, "I'm actually getting some ingredients and supplies to make dinner for my friend that just had a baby." He said, "That's a good idea. It's really hard to have a baby. Like, that's really cool that you do dinner." And I was thinking, had he never heard of this? I mean, just the
Right.
I mean, and it probably did seem very old school to him that a new idea, like, oh, yeah, it's hard having a little baby. Like, that's a good idea to bring over meals. And in my head, I'm like, that's just what you do.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
if somebody is having a baby, you bring them food.
Yes, they need to eat, especially if mamas are nursing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
need to eat healthy, and I know we as moms tend to think of ourselves last, even after we've just given birth. So just stepping in and bringing a healthy meal to a family, is just, it's a huge blessing. So I love to be able to get to do that for people.
Well, you mentioned that you're a 2.
Yes.
And I am also, so I know some of the ins and outs of it. So what do you do because you have that kind of giving personality and you see a need and all that? How do you manage that so that you keep some balance?
It's hard, and that's something I'm working on, I feel like, daily. But a lot of my time to unwind is time with God, just quiet time with God. And I tend to bring everything onto myself. So I need that time with God to kind of decompress and hand him over all the things that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Because
Or
of
caring for other people.
Yes, I tend to carry things for other people, and I just have to kind of refresh myself with him, just so I can do that again for someone else and just, for myself. And I'm learning to not feel guilty about spending time on myself or money on myself or, taking the time to be alone. I think it's hard, especially for moms who work part-time or full-time from the home, out of the home. It's hard for us, even if you're not working, to find time for yourself and to feel not guilty about it. Why do we feel guilty about it? There's always those thoughts of oh, what am I missing that my child's doing? But the truth is you can't pour from an empty cup. So you got to make sure you are filling yourself up and, replenishing yourself so you can continue to give.
I think it's so good that you're aware about about yourself. That's, the way God designed you.
Right. Yeah.
Is that, you're trying to find where those limits are.
Yeah.
And all, I know for myself, I've, one of the things I've started to do is a Sabbath day, and that I take a day and change my pace and do something that involves beauty, do something that's fun that really just delights me, and because otherwise I would just keep going because I keep thinking about this person or that person or whatever.
Yes.
So that's really healthy that you've discovered that about yourself.
It's a work in progress. I don't know that I practice that every day, but when I start to feel a certain way, I'm like, okay, I need to go spend some time with my father and get this sorted out.
At the beginning, I heard you say that your family is your first ministry.
Yeah.
I love that.
Can
Can you
that
explain,
too.
what does that really mean? Because we might have listeners that, ministry is a new word to them. So what is that? Can you kind of flesh that out?
In a way, it's kind of like I prioritize them. And also my mentor friend, Becca Dawson, is the one who gave me that terminology. Like she lives that way. So she kind of gave me that example to follow. And it's really just making sure that, like I'm doing a good job at my workplace, but am I doing a good job at my home? Like they take priority. Telling them about Jesus is important to me. Making sure their needs are met is more important to me than, I guess, doing a good job. Am I allowed to say that? Because I'm like on the clock right now, but
yes, it's
but you know what I mean? What is all this for if my family is not getting, fed? Like I'm feeding, children and servant leaders every Sunday, faith and truth and, stories from the Bible. But if I'm not doing that for my own family, then like, what am I even doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
So, so I just want to make sure that,
good. Well, I remember reading a book several years ago when I had littles. It was called Ministry of Motherhood. And it was really the first time that I had understood the design within being a mother, and like my job as being a mother was to point my kids to know who God was. And it can be interesting and weird to think that we think a lot more is caught rather than taught. And our home, the pace that we set around our home is caught by our kids. And so what does that look like to set an environment in a home where you're using it as your ministry? I mean, like, what do you do when you prepare to go to a job? I mean, like a 9-to-5 job, you prepare every day and you set the pace and environment of your schedule. And like as much as possible, you try to set the tone in with people, like in which you talk to people and you interact with people, and that you set a good ground for like communication to happen. And the same is true for motherhood and like having the ministry of motherhood. And so I think you're exactly right that the priority, I think it just has a lot to do with priority.
Yeah. So that involves a lot of prayer.
Yes,
it does.
A lot of grace for yourself and your kids.
Yes.
And a lot of just hitting that pause button, like, don't freak out. Like,
Yeah, right.
There's also lots of reset buttons.
Yes. Lots of reset buttons. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Every night when I go to bed, it's like a reset. But no.
I mean, I may like lock myself in my closet every once in a while to give myself a reset.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Eat some ice cream.
I used to tell my kids, Mommy needs a timeout.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mom,
often.
We need time for ourselves,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah. Just to figure things out. And, okay, how am I going to handle this, like, situation?
Yeah.
Actually, I remember a story or something that happened. My 7-year-old daughter was in the bathroom cutting her own hair. And, I know. And her sister's hair. And it was like a huge moment. Like she's usually
Wait, this was recently.
This was
you said
recently.
7-year-old?
Yes, she did it when she was 7. So I know she's gonna. She'll listen to this in a few years maybe and be like, "What you told them?" But anyway, the day after I had reminded her, only grown-ups cut your hair. You don't cut your own hair. And so I caught her cutting her sister's hair, and I easily could have just flown off the handle, yelling. And that's like what my instinct was to do. But I just kind of like calmly stepped back. I think I had my hands on my face, like, okay, how am I going to handle this? Like, I was like, oh
push
no.
the cheeks up to smile so you don't like
right.
scream.
And I think she was like so shocked that I wasn't. Like, she's like, oh, she's not saying anything. Like, what's going to happen next, And I just kind of got on her level, and I was like, why did you do this? And she's like, I forgot you didn't tell me, that you told me not to cut my own hair. And I'm like, pretty sure you didn't. Like, that's a lie. And, we kind of talked through it, and she did feel bad, and she apologized, and, I forgave her. And, it kind of sparked a good conversation about, our choices have consequences. And, I kind of was like, okay, how do I turn this into a teachable moment versus a screaming match or, like she, I did take, I think, screen time away from her for a good 24 hours, maybe more, I'm not sure. But, just to, teach her a lesson but also show grace without getting too angry. So,
Well, my kids are all grown, they're adults. and I have grandchildren now, so I can tell both of you and any other moms that are out there in kind of the same thing, that you're probably doing a whole lot better than you think you
That's
are.
right.
And also, when your kids are grown, they'll start saying things that you'll realize they really were listening.
Right.
They really saw that. Oh my gosh, that sunk in.
Right.
You know, and it really does. I think it's the idea that if you wrap your mothering in prayer, and really just have that heart, then God makes up all the stuff when we screw up and don't do what we're supposed to do, and
Yeah.
and all that kind of thing, and He takes care of that. I used to pray over my kids every night that that the Lord would just remove any arrows that had lodged in their hearts, you know,
Right.
whether it was things that I said or my attitude or,
Right.
you know, at school or, you know, that, and that He would heal that and just fill it with His truth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the really important thing, you know, like you were talking about, approaching it that way in
Yeah.
prayer, you know.
And I feel like it's important to know that it's okay if you don't, like, and that moment comes and you do kind of lose it. It's okay to go to your child and apologize. I've done that numerous times, and I feel like
Oh,
that
yes.
too can teach them, you know, while you weren't able to teach in the previous moment, you're able to teach from your own mistakes and just letting them know, like, hey, you know, I remember having a conversation with my son. I'm like, listen, mommy's not perfect. Like, I am going to screw up this parenting thing, and, you know, I'm sorry. And, like, you know, I can't remember specifically what we were arguing about, you know, with my 10-year-old. What did 10-year-olds argue about? He probably, I don't know. He wanted a new
Dirty
video game.
socks and shoes.
Right, yeah.
And picking up after themselves.
Right,
and-
yes. Probably like unloading the dishwasher.
Oh,
'cause- yeah. But, you know, and I feel like, you know, me just saying that I'm not perfect and, you know, I'm never going to be and I'm going to mess up, but I hope, you know, you would forgive me as much as I would forgive you, you know, and he just kind of like was like, oh, okay. So it seemed to hopefully resonate with him. So hopefully that's one of the things he remembers, Janice. And I'm going to tell him. I don't know. We'll see.
It's amazing the things that you think that have scarred them for life that they don't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've
Yes.
had that conversation with
Praise
my oldest
God.
son about something, and he's like, I don't remember that. And it was like, it had been like 30 years I had
Right.
carried the guilt.
Oh,
Mom,
oh
there's
my.
nothing like mom guilt.
There's not. Oh,
You know,
yeah.
you know, there isn't. But I was sitting here thinking, you know, you were talking about, you know, forgiving and asking your child to forgive you, which is so important, you know, because you're teaching them and stuff. But, you know, I find that I'm my own worst enemy.
Oh, for sure.
You know, when it comes to like understanding how God has created me and designed me and you know, what I think I should be doing and what I am doing and all of that kind of thing. You know, and I was wondering, what about you? I mean, what are the things that you do to yourself? You know, whether it's your self-talk or your doubts or whatever.
Oh, I definitely get in my own way a lot. I feel like, you know, I will be the person telling myself lies about, you can't do this. You're not qualified. Like, who put you in charge? You know, like, what was God thinking when He gave you all these kids? Like, you know, clearly you can't balance all of this, and you probably haven't done enough, and, you know, you totally screwed up your kids, you know. But again, you have to like kind of hit that pause button, like, okay, hold on. Is this true? Is this what God has said about me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, is this,
Yeah.
did He really design me to totally screw up some kids? Like, I don't think so.
Yes.
And, you know,
That's good.
his design and His hand, I feel like, has been with me every step of the way. That, you know, like, okay, God brought you here for a reason. He's not just going to leave you here and, like, you know, drop you and bye, you know, like, He's going to
Hope
help
you do
through.
well.
Yeah, right. Good luck. See ya. That's not how He works. So, I feel like, you know, giving, you know, but also then giving myself the grace for standing in my own way almost every day, you know, and just doubting myself and just listening to what God has brought me through, you know, like reflecting on, you know, things He's brought me
so
through.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and like there was a time that I struggled, and I still struggle on occasion, just with mental health and anxiety, you know, that has occasionally led into like some depression. And I feel like, you know, God walked with me through that. It was a time in my life where I really had to just connect with Him, like in the most intense way, because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to live like this. Like, this is terrible. What is the point of this, God? And just really listening to Him and getting in the Word and worshiping and, you know, hearing him say, like within prayer, you know, like, it's okay, you know, I've got this. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I know for myself, sometimes it's my self-talk, what I say in my head. And I've a small group that I lead, one of the women once said something about that if we said out loud, if someone said to us what we say to ourselves in our heads, it would be considered verbal abuse.
Right.
You know, because sometimes we are so critical. I find for myself, I can be really, really critical.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and say, you know, why did you do that?
Right.
Or what were you thinking?
Right.
You know, or so-and-so is thinking, you know,
Right.
that, you know, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it can make you doubt what you really believe God has designed you as, who you really are, because that's what we're talking about is who you are in your core, what, you know, who Morgan is and who Jess is and who Janice is and all of that. And to, you know, instead say, maybe I need to be more like Jess, or I need to be more like Morgan, or I need to be more like somebody else, you know. So I really do want to be like Morgan. So.
Sorry, I want to be like Janice when I grow up too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, as I'm thinking through just this conversation, it makes me think that, you know, really I mean, we talk from the perspective of Christianity.
Yeah.
And I think that the defining characteristic of this specific vein of religion is that God, being in control of all and being the designer of all, part of his design is his love for us. And that there's, I think that's so important for us to grasp, because as you were talking about, like your own worst enemy and like the things that I say in my head, that I actually didn't realize for a long time that I was doing that to myself, that I would critique myself, and that I would be so caught up in like, I can't do that, or and I didn't even know I was doing it. And what I finally realized was, you know, there's that verse that talks about renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
And I remember praying that to God and saying, God, just renew my mind. I don't really even know what that means, but renew my mind. And slowly but surely it was like God reframed some of the lies that I was listening to and that I was telling myself, and helped me reframe them to say, those are not from me.
Right.
You know, I didn't say those things, and I'm not saying those things about who you are, because if he's in control of all, and if the defining characteristic of our, you know, pursuit of God is that he loves us before we loved him,
Right.
that changes everything.
Right.
Because that means that the way that he cared about me so much, he cares about me so much, that he has designed me to be me. And of course there's a whole process of, you know, refining who we are in him, because there's some parts that need to fall away. There's some parts and branches in me, like, to put it how Jesus said, is that there's some branches that need to be cut off that are dead. I mean, like, I have to go around my house and do that all the time. There's branches that are dead. The rest are flowering and really pretty, but there's like one, and I need to cut it off because it doesn't, it's not living. And I feel like, so there's this process of, you know, what we like to call it in the church world is sanctification. And it's kind of just like the work of purifying little by little. But really what God does in that is he just takes small areas first, and he speaks one truth. And he says, I love you. And that's just part of his design. And I think it's so important for us to grasp that. And we will forever be learning about what it, like, the depths that God loves us to. And I'm like, you know, it's a process. I'm still uncovering that, because it has a lot to do with my negative talk. And let me tell you another aspect of this, and you can speak into this too, is that it had to do with people too.
Oh, for sure.
And in my story, the people that cared enough about me, like you had talked about how, like, Liz, the volunteer, just kind of pushed you and cared enough about you. And you had this feeling of like, how will I repay? Or like, how can I do this? And you have figured out in your story that I'll just pay it forward and I'll do this for someone else. And so I think that's just part of the way that God works in our lives, is that he uses people. And it's true. You know, he doesn't have to use us because he's in control of everything, and he's put everything into motion. He doesn't need us to sustain any part of the world.
Right.
We can't. I mean,
Right.
like, we can't even breathe without him
allowing
supplying the
it.
breath in
Right.
our lungs. But he chooses to use people in our lives to point out those lies, to say, sister, that's
Yep.
not true. Like,
Yeah.
you're listening to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You're listening to yourself, and that's not true. Let me tell you, let me just be a person that, like you said, like, you love speaking truth over people.
Yeah.
It's so important, and please don't ever stop
Yes.
doing that.
Yes.
Is that speaking God's truth over people is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like too, when it's coming from someone else's mouth other than yours, it carries, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
it carries more weight or a different weight.
Well, it could be because our self-talk is always going. It's
Right,
always chattering.
exactly.
And when, I mean, like, if you just hear one person, I mean, if you were sitting across from someone and they were just talking, then you just get used to and numb, like, to
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
voice. And then
Right.
you hear this outside voice and it's like, oh, what is that?
Right.
And that's what a friend's voice can do,
Yes.
is break through the
Right.
self-talk.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's so
absolutely.
good.
I think, you know, like you were saying, you get kind of numb to it because it's just like this thing that's just going on all the time. And I know one thing I've done is just saying, you know, it's like, God, just make me more aware
Right.
of what I'm saying and what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And you're just like, whoa, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I was thinking when you were talking that, you know, that it's like, you know, Jesus comes into your life and it's like he moves in, he moves into your house. And, you know, I want to show him my beautiful pantry.
I just organized it.
Yes, it's so wonderful. And
Right,
he
I just
walks
went to
over to
the
my
grocery
junk
store.
drawer
Right.
and wants to pull open the junk drawer. And you're like, no,
Oh
don't go
my
in there.
gosh,
Don't
that's
go
such
in there.
a good illustration.
Don't
You're
go
right.
in there because
I'm
you
not
know,
ready for that.
Yeah. Or I've been known when somebody's coming over and I haven't had time to clean up to put things inside the oven.
Oh yeah.
True confession. Okay.
Oh, that's bad for me because I would forget about it being in
For
the oven,
sure,
and I
and
would definitely
For
turn
the
it off.
preheat.
Like,
Yeah.
I left for vacation one time and left sweet potatoes in the oven for 2 weeks. And
Oh,
I got
man.
home and I'm like, what is that smell?
Oh,
I cleaned out
no.
the refrigerator. I ran the disposal and it was in my oven.
Oh my gosh.
But hiding things in your oven, that's pretty smart.
Well,
idea.
it's that somebody's coming over and it's like I have like 15
Where
minutes.
do I put this?
Yes.
Oven.
Oven. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like a closet or something. Throw
Yeah,
things behind
right.
the couch.
Behind the couch.
No one lives here.
But really, I mean, he does. He wants to go to those
Yep.
places. And those are the places where we do those kinds of things, where we talk to each other and we beat each other up.
Yep.
And beat ourselves up
Right.
and each other. But, you know, we beat ourselves up and just, you know, and really hold ourselves to a standard that, you know, him as a loving father doesn't even do that, you
Right.
know, because he looks at you and says, hey, you're my daughter.
Right.
Come on, stop it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
used to have a friend that would tell me, put the stick down. Like, because I would just say things out loud and she'd say, put the stick down.
That's good.
Yeah,
No,
that's good.
Like the talking stick.
Yeah. No, like, yeah. Or like a pinata. I was going
Oh,
at
like
my,
beating
like,
yourself.
yeah,
Okay,
just
gotcha,
beating
gotcha.
myself.
No, that makes sense. Okay,
Talking
that makes a
stick.
lot more sense than the talking
A
stick.
talking, it's a talking stick.
Okay, you don't know what a talking stick is? Okay, well,
Is it a teacher thing?
a teacher thing and like if you have like a group. Okay, for example, my 7th grade cheerleading squad, we had a big problem, and actually my parents brought in someone to kind of help us through a conversation of figuring out,
Oh,
you know,
that's
how we're going to move forward.
serious.
And I remember there being a talking stick, so you weren't allowed to talk unless you were holding the talking stick because I don't know if anyone's ever been in a room full of fighting 7th grade girls, but everyone's like, you know, cat fight. Not really, not physical, but just, you know, with
Yeah.
words. And so there was a talking stick brought in.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's a good technique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can take that. You're welcome.
I thought it was like this X-Kids things or something that you were doing, you know.
We could probably use them in X Kids too. I do have some Moses staffs that would make great talking sticks. Although they might, I don't know, that could end bad.
That- yeah, I was
never
gonna
mind.
say,
Just kidding.
Don't let that in the hands of boys.
Yeah, no, no.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I wanted to ask a question, and
Okay.
you know, just it's cool that we've got to kind of unpack a lot of your story and even just the motherhood aspect of it and the job aspect of it. But I wanted to ask that as you look back, what is one thing that helped you realize that God wanted to use your story to impact others? Because I think it's so easy for us to say like my story is just normal,
Right.
or doesn't everybody like operate this way, or even I don't have anything crazy in my story that that I was, miraculously saved from or whatever. But at what point, what helped you realize that God wanted to use your story for other people? Because you're a very others mindset.
Yes. I feel like when I meet somebody who's going through something that I went through, like, I'm like, okay, I can use what I learned in that situation, with anxiety. I was able to, I'm able to help or speak into other people's anxiety. I'm not a professional, but I think I can sympathize with other people, just being a mom, and going through that process. And I look back on so many instances where, I'm like, God, why are you taking me through this? Like, this is not fun. I'm uncomfortable. Oh, am I uncomfortable? But just, going through the process and dealing with it, and then I'm then able to help. It's funny how you'll go through something, and this goes for everyone in the room, everyone listening. You'll go through something, and it'll be difficult. It'll be uncomfortable. You'll come out on the other side, and not too long later, God's going to bring someone into your life.
That's right.
Who needs to hear your story, and
It's part of his design.
Yep, it's part of his design, and you're going to help them, by what you know. It's a beautiful thing, really.
Yeah,
that
that's
he
right.
does for us.
That is absolutely true.
So I don't know if there's like one thing. I feel like it's like my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a culmination of things.
Yeah. For example, my husband and I started dating. I was only 19, and he was 24 with a daughter. So I'm sure my parents were like, oh, okay. And I have a friend. He's like a brother to me, and he started dating a younger girl. And who even knew? Like, I was just able to kind of speak into his situation and just be like, well, this age gap can work for sure. But here's some things, to like keep in mind, the mindset that she's in, versus where you're at in life, and how, being that young, she's still impressionable. Like, your ideals haven't completely formed, when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So, and then I feel like looking back on me and my husband's relationship, I'm like, man, he's a 3, and I feel like his 3-ness has for sure influenced, my thought process.
What is a 3?
A 3 is a performer, right?
Yeah,
Achiever.
is it? Achiever.
Achiever, performer. Yeah. So yeah, he likes to do a lot of things. He keeps very busy.
He does.
Can I tell you a really funny story?
Please.
Okay. So we were getting ready to drive to Florida, to St. Augustine, Florida. And, as the wing one in me, which is like the organized person, I'm getting everyone packed, days ahead of time. I have, a huge snack bag ready to go. His one task was to get
You had one job.
Yes, exactly. His one job was to get the little carrier on top of our car, because we hadn't used it on our car yet, and we were like, we want to make sure it fits, yada, yada, yada. Well, the night before we're going to leave in the morning, he spends the night making beef jerky.
Of course. Like, why not? Why not make homemade beef jerky?
Right. Well, because do you know how much it costs at the gas station? It's really expensive.
It is. It's like
we were saving all kinds of money.
Oh, of course.
By him making us this beef jerky.
Yes.
By him, who's about to drive to Florida, he stays up all night, like intermittently sleeping, to go check the oven on his 7 different flavors of beef jerky.
7 different
I
flavors.
bet they were the best 7 flavors that you could ever put on beef jerky.
I will
though.
say they were really good. And but he was just
my
so proud of
gosh.
himself, and I was just like, that's just not something that I would think about doing the night before I have a 16-hour drive with, my wife and kids. But, we did reap the benefits of his 3-ness that night. I was
Did he get the thing on top of the car?
He did. Okay, yeah. So what I would have done was be working on that, making sure that was going to work out okay.
Because you
So
need
he
that
ended
for
up
your
doing
vacation. You don't need beef jerky.
Right. So he was getting that done in the morning. So I think we left for the most part on time, but I was like, this would have been a whole lot less stressful had we just had this done last night. But the good news is that we had beef jerky, and we had lots of beef jerky.
Jesus.
We were eating beef jerky at the beach. So
I bet your car smelled so gross.
well, I was doing keto at the time. Actually, I'm still doing keto, so it kind of worked out for me too.
that's
So
good.
I'm not complaining. I'll allow it. So that's what it's like being married to a 3.
I am a 3.
I know you're a 3. Would you ever make beef jerky? Stay up making beef jerky?
No, because I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Would you do something like that? Maybe?
Probably.
Yeah.
Be really fixated on like one
Yes, the
thing
task that needed to be
before-
done.
But usually it's on task.
Right.
Like we are leaving for vacation and everything is ready. And I also have a to-do list, and I also have an inventory
Yes.
list where you can find everything in the back seat in
That's
case you need it.
awesome.
This bag has these things in it.
Right.
This bag is this. If you need to find your bag, it's this color. And if you need to find your bag, it's this color. Everybody's
I love it.
everybody's-
color-coded.
Oh
We're
yeah,
ready to go.
everybody's like outfits are paired together.
Oh,
so like
same.
you have
Yeah.
like the boys have their shorts and their shirts and their underwear all stacked. So all you have to do is
Right.
I should not
Genius.
even be
No, I
talking
think that's
about
good.
this. This is
Oh
That's good.
my.
borderline OCD.
I like it.
maybe.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
Just
Can you
organization.
be a 3-wing one?
I don't
Technically
know.
you
You
can't,
can't. Trey is the one.
but okay.
My husband's the one. So
So do you feel like his oneness maybe rubs off on you? So you feel like you need to have that stuff in order for him to have peace?
Mhm.
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Ooh, that was so insightful.
That was insightful. You can come see me for your marriage
I
counseling
know.
later.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that was a fun episode.
Yes.
Do you have any more questions for Morgan before she?
No, I really
man, I have
can't
to go
think
back
of it
to
because I've just so
You'll
enjoyed.
ask her next
yeah,
your
I'll-
desk.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
right. I'll turn around and say, "Hey, I forgot to ask you this." No,
Yeah.
it's just been really, really great
Oh, well,
hearing
thanks
all
for
your
having
thoughts.
me. This was an honor.
I know.
This
Oh
is
my
so
gosh.
exciting.
Yeah.
So great.
I'm so excited for the women's ministry of
I know.
our church and beyond. Like it's going to
Yes.
be great. So
Yes.
if you're not already involved, get involved. Reach
Mhm.
out to us. We'd love to meet you. I'd love to get coffee with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want to serve in kids, shameless plug. We always
Talk to
need people.
Morgan.
Yes, come see me.
Hold some babies. Teach a Bible story.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I
not
love
scary.
working over there.
Yeah. It's
I haven't
not
worked
scary.
over there in a few years,
You
but
haven't. We're going to get you back one
Oh,
day.
well. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
We're so glad that you came and pulled up a seat to our table. Like I said last week, it might not be a big table, but you're always welcome here. And we ask you to come back next week because we have another special guest, and her name is Rebecca. This is Pastor Zach's wife, and she is going to be talking to us about what it is to discover who God is and to discover ourselves in the process. She's the best. Come back.
Thanks so much for listening. Our hope is that everyone who hears these episodes, near or far, would know that the invitation at our table is always open. You might not be sitting at this table, but our desire is that you would join in on these conversations. So if you were inspired by today's talks, send us an email at inspired@thex.church. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, and questions. And as always, don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts.